Air raid alert in Moscow. Putin evacuated to a bunker. Incredible. Ukrainian armed forces attacked the most important chemical plant of the Russian military-industrial complex, 1,300 kilometers from the border. Russian air defense switched sides to the Ukrainian armed forces and shot down its own helicopter over the Rostov region. Chechens are rebelling. They are being humiliated in the Russian army and forced to eat pork. Poland has declared its own nuclear weapons. France is officially entering the war in the Middle East. Iraq is ready to bomb Paris. The Ukrainian armed forces counteroffensive continues. 9 more villages in the south have been liberated. The target is Berdyansk. Another attack on the Novorossiysk port. As many as 5 military ships have been damaged. A new war? Trump has sent troops into Ecuador. Another Shadow Fleet tanker is going to the bottom. No one survived. Hello, my name is Katerina Nesterenko, and right now, here are the top stories. But first, please like this video and subscribe to our channel so we don't lose touch with you across the vastness of YouTube. So, just the other day, the Kremlin claimed that in the midst of global chaos, Russia is an island of wisdom and stability. Well, the Ukrainian armed forces continue to maintain that stability. On the morning of March 4th, a drone attacked a chemical plant in Kirovo-Chepetsk, Kirov region, which is connected to the Russian military-industrial complex. Governor Alexander Sokolov officially confirmed the morning attack. There were no casualties. The situation is, as usual, under control. Thank you. It is worth noting that the distance from Ukraine to Kirovo-Chepetsk is about 1,300 kilometers in a straight line. And the Lyuty drone showed a factory worker in its camera, proving that this distance is not a problem for it. Meanwhile, sirens are wailing all over Moscow, air raid alerts are sounding. But let's not rush to celebrate. This is not a Ukrainian armed forces attack, just a scheduled drill. It's the nationwide emergency alert system announced in advance by the Ministry of Emergency Situations. A standard rehearsal to make sure everything works in case of an emergency. We sincerely wish Muscovites that it works more often. Get used to this sound. Russian friendly fire is always spectacular and satisfying to watch. On the evening of March 3rd, a Russian military helicopter was shot down near the Milerovo air base in the Rostov region by their own forces.
A very warm hello to you, my wonderful and dearest friend today.
This is being reported in unison by Z channels, aviation communities, and local chats. According to eyewitnesses and bloggers, there was a massive attack by Ukrainian drones, during which Russian air defense added their own aircraft to the target list. As reported, the crew did not make it out. That evening, the region really was under attack by drones. Explosions were heard in the Milorovsky and Tarasovsky districts. Governor Slusar confirmed this, but of course not a word about the helicopter. There is still no official confirmation from the Russian side, and there may never be any. As of March 4th, 2026, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine counts 348 Russian helicopters lost since the start of the full-scale invasion. And apparently the counter has just ticked up by 1. Russians, don't stop. Keep it up. As they say, we believe in you. On the night of March 3rd, the Russian gas tanker Arctic Metagas caught fire in the Mediterranean Sea. According to maritime sources, the tanker sustained critical damage and may have been effectively destroyed. The vessel is under American and British stations. According to Reuters, the last time the tanker transmitted its location signal was off the coast of Malta. Later, it was reported that the crew evacuated. The sailors were found in a lifeboat in the area of Libya. An agency source suggested the possibility of an attack by maritime drones. Meanwhile, the Russian Ministry of Transport has already stated that the gas carrier was attacked by Ukrainian unmanned maritime drones. Meanwhile, a photo of the Russian tanker with a rather impressive hull is already circulating online. Against this backdrop, the theory of an attack by surface drones is only gaining strength. But there is no official confirmation at this time. At the same time, Russian social media channels are reporting on the aftermath of a massive Ukrainian attack on the port of Novorossiysk in Krasnodar Krai on the night of March 2nd. According to monitoring channels, 5 military ships were damaged, including the Yeysk, the Kasimov, and possibly the minesweeper Valentin Pikul. The Security Service of Ukraine confirmed the strike on Russian ships on the night of March 2nd. Well, it seems that the Russian Shadow Fleet, along with the Black Sea Fleet, has received yet another striking a slap in the face from the Ukrainians. Reading the comments under previous episodes, I see that many of you are watching us from Europe, Kazakhstan, Moldova, and even the USA. We Ukrainians are grateful for your support and proud to have such reasonable viewers. Let us know in the comments under this episode as well. Which country are you watching us from, and do people there support our fight against the empire of evil? I always enjoy reading your comments, and for now, we continue. Next comes the most interesting part. Russian troops tried to break through the state border in the Kharkiv region, in the directions of Zibino and Kruglo. According to the Ukrainian armed forces, enemy assault groups were met with heavy fire and successfully eliminated. The occupiers' attempt to advance failed in the Kupiansk direction. The enemy's attempt to break through our defenses towards Petropavlivka also ended in failure. Kupiansk remains under the control of the Ukrainian Defense Forces, despite numerous statements. A Russian general spoke about the recapture of this city. Occupiers were spotted in the building of what was once a functioning hospital. Now it looks like this. All Russian assaults were also repelled in the southern and Lyman directions. Meanwhile, in the Kostiantinivka direction in Donetsk region, Russian activity has decreased. According to Ukrainian defenders, the occupiers have been using the same tactics in this area for a year now. They continue to attempt to infiltrate our positions. Just the other day, one of these groups was successfully eliminated. The decrease in activity? The Ukrainian armed forces link the decrease in activity of the Barefoot Laptai to the shutdown of Starlink terminals, which has significantly complicated reconnaissance and fire adjustment for Putin's army. The Ukrainian P-1 SIN interceptor destroyed a drone that was carrying a mortar mine. This drone dropped it onto a road along which a civilian car was traveling. The moment of the successful interception was captured on video. The target was destroyed. Operators from the special unit of the National Guard of Ukraine, Lasers Group, together with the separate drone systems brigade Achilles, delivered a powerful strike against an S-400 air defense missile system launcher on the territory of the Belgorod People's Republic. Meanwhile, another TikTok warrior from Chechnya recorded an address to Ramzan Kadyrov complaining about service conditions. He claims that in the 503rd Guards Motor Rifle Regiment, he is subjected to discrimination based on ethnicity and cannot transfer. Now that's what I call real interethnic unity, Russian style.
Dagestani. I am Chechen, Ingush, Russian, Tatar, Jewish, Mordvin, Ossetian.
At the same time, discontent flared up among the soldiers in the North Caucasus over the composition of their rations. Corrupt Caucasians are sincerely perplexed as to why the Russian Ministry of Defense includes food sets named for Muslims. They then proceeded to very carefully and deliberately arrange each of the items into their specific positions, ensuring everything was exactly where it belonged, just as they had originally planned to do.
We are featuring these premium, handcrafted pork sausages that have been seasoned to perfection. We have carefully selected the finest cuts of meat for this recipe, and we, as you may already know,
that Russians watch our broadcasts. Relatives of soldiers, what you are seeing in this video is not an exception, but the daily reality of your liberators, whom Putin sends to destroy Ukrainian homes and die for his senile and delusional ambitions. Most of your guys are Cargo 200. Others are dying painfully from wounds, hunger, and lack of help. The 225th Separate Assault Regiment of the Ukrainian Ground Forces is offering them assistance. A communication channel has been opened on Telegram. Choose Life, through which they can contact our military and stay alive. I never cease to admire the courage and heroism of Ukrainian soldiers. They are holding the front and standing against a huge horde that vastly outnumbers them. That's why I urge everyone to support the armed forces of Ukraine. And if you can't do it financially, write them words of support in the comments. I know they are watching us. Meanwhile, the armed forces of Ukraine are successfully liberating their territories. At least 9 settlements have been deoccupied in the south. In Donbas and Crimea, Ukrainian defenders are actively preparing the ground for their liberation. First and foremost, enemy ammunition depots and logistics are being successfully destroyed. The occupiers do not feel safe, even in Donetsk and Mariupol, where after a relatively calm year, people had already managed to relax. Details in our report.
The armed forces of Ukraine can no longer be stopped. Our defenders have launched a counteroffensive. In an instant, the Russian front collapsed and the occupiers began to flee, abandoning more and more of the territories they had previously seized. In
Total, over the course of these 2 months, as we can see, about 400 square kilometers have been liberated in these territories.
Recently, the focus of Ukrainian attacks has shifted to the Russians' near-rear positions, the Russians in the occupied territories. The past week has been one of the most significant and successful in terms of the frequency and geographic spread of strikes against the enemy.
The losses of the Russian armed forces, their monthly losses, are showing a negative trend. December, January, February, all of this is confirmed.
For example, our aviation and HIMARS MLRs in the Alexandrovsk direction. They are striking enemy positions, as well as the infantry and equipment of the occupiers. The Russian invading forces have virtually no possibility whatsoever of surviving such an overwhelmingly powerful strike. And here is the Zaporizhzhia direction. In this area, a Kasta radar unit was successfully destroyed by Ukrainian drone systems. The geography of strikes during the Ukrainian armed forces counteroffensive is impressive. Our defenders managed to strike not only along the front line, but also behind enemy lines. Recently, Mariupol and Yalta have also been targeted. Explosions there do not cease. The Ukrainian armed forces are striking barracks, ammunition depots, deployment sites, and air defense assets.
We know that a little over a month ago, Commander-in-Chief General Syrskyi said that defense alone will not solve the issues. Not in this war. At the very least, it must be active. This means that counterattacks are being carried out in certain areas.
It's turning out to be a hot week for the occupiers in Tokmak and the surrounding areas. The occupied city is under such intense fire for the first time. It was here, before the strikes began, that the largest concentration of Russian rear reserves for the offensive was gathered, maneuvering and attacks along the front line.
The armed forces of Ukraine have concentrated significant...
The military units stationed here consist primarily of highly trained airborne assault troops, which are recognized as some of the most elite units within the entire armed forces of Ukraine, with the strategic objective of advancing from the northern positions toward the south and successfully maneuvering to get behind the Russian group that is currently operating to the west of Huliaipol.
Putin's army finds no peace in Crimea either. There, Ukrainian defense forces struck hangars in Yevpatoria where Russian troops stored and serviced multi-purpose drones, Forepost and Orion. Incidentally, the Ukrainian armed forces owe such outstanding strike effectiveness, among other things, to Ukrainian partisans who secretly operate in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine, as well as in Russia.
Pro-Ukrainian residents, who were the first to claim space in the temporarily occupied territory of Crimea, put up all sorts of Ukrainian flags, Ukrainian symbols, and hung yellow ribbons. Later, this resistance grew stronger. They began to pass on, as confirmed by the military coordinator of the resistance movement. Military coordinates, military data.
Their intelligence is invaluable, and each new act of sabotage becomes almost a personal slap in the face for the Kremlin and Putin. In
Klin Moscow region, an Atesh agent destroyed a Livin mobile satellite communication complex.
And our partisans carry out similar attacks on a regular basis.
Members of the movement say that it was their actions and the information they gathered that made it possible. Ukrainian strikes on Crimea. In particular, according to Atesh, it was they who directed the Ukrainian missile strike on the Russian landing ship and submarine, the Minsk and the Rostov-on-Don, as well as the attack on the headquarters of Russia's Black Sea Fleet in September 2023.
Meanwhile, Ukrainian partisans from the resistance have already paralyzed a key railway in Luhansk, which has dealt a serious blow to the supply lines of the Pokrovsk grouping of the Russian armed forces. Now the partisans are actively helping our defenders with the spring counteroffensive.
They have united and are carrying out active actions within the partisan movement. Specifically in the military sphere, they carry out sabotage operations at military facilities, as well as so-called terrorist acts, eliminating occupation officials both in newly occupied territories and in the territory. Of temporarily occupied Crimea, they are also actively involved in gathering and transmitting military information.
It is precisely this information that allows the armed forces of Ukraine to deliver accurate strikes against enemy groupings.
They say that they provide information about air defense systems, warehouses, military bases, and troop movements, sometimes observing targets for weeks.
In addition, our partisans in Donbass and Crimea are actively preparing the ground for the liberation of the region seized by Putin. Thanks to their work, the occupiers never feel at ease. Neither in Donetsk, nor in Mariupol, nor on the territory of the Crimean Peninsula. And with the inevitable advance of the Ukrainian armed forces at the front, the fear among Russians only grows.
Brothers and sisters, the military movement Atesh is preparing to liberate Crimea from the occupiers. We are near Jankoy, waiting for the Ukrainian armed forces. We have created dozens of caches with weapons, explosives, and ammunition. As soon as the Ukrainian armed forces cross the administrative border with Crimea, we will seize administrative buildings and military facilities.
Another terrorist act. Russia is once again targeting civilians. Country 404 struck a passenger train in Mykolaiv with Shahed drones, after which a carriage caught fire. It is known that one person was injured. According to Andriy Kuleba, the train that was hit by a Russian drone on the morning of March 4th was fortunately empty. It had arrived for maintenance. Later, the State Emergency Service of Ukraine showed footage of the fire being extinguished. People, there. No, that's all, and you stay there. This is far from the first attack. Let me remind you, just a few days ago, Russia attacked a train while it was moving in the Dnipropetrovsk region. There have already been attacks this year on civilian trains in the Kharkiv region as well. I'll say it plainly and unequivocally, Russia is a country, a terrorist. Like this video, if you agree with me. Poland openly declares that it wants its own nuclear weapons. Prime Minister Donald Tusk stated that Warsaw takes nuclear security very seriously. And I quote, "In the future, we'll strive for maximum autonomy in this matter." As Bloomberg reports, according to Tusk, Poland will not be passive and intends to actively develop both nuclear energy and areas related to strengthening strategic security. Earlier, on March 2nd, the Polish Prime Minister announced negotiations with France on expanding the nuclear umbrella. Earlier, Emmanuel Macron proposed temporarily deploying fighter jets with nuclear weapons on the territory of allies. In addition, Paris announced the expansion of its nuclear arsenal, while refusing to disclose its exact parameters. Donald Tusk also confirmed contacts with Sweden and Denmark on this issue. A new round of discussions is expected on March 10th at the Nuclear Energy Summit in Paris.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism, and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Peacemaker Donald Trump has sent his troops to yet another country. On March 3rd, the US and Ecuador launched a joint operation against narco-terrorists. This was reported by the US Armed Forces Southern Command. Their commander, General Francis Donovan, expressed respect for the Ecuadorian servicemen for their unwavering dedication to the fight, as well as their demonstrated courage and determination in their ongoing actions against narco-terrorists in the country. So far, neither country has disclosed details about the scale or format of the operation. It should be added that President Shadow and Trump signed a decree providing for broader and more active use of the armed forces in the fight on the ground against Latin American drug cartels. Apparently, this is only the beginning. It seems that France is entering an open war in the Middle East. President Emmanuel Macron announced the redeployment of a nuclear aircraft carrier to the Mediterranean Sea to support allies. I quote, "In the face of this unstable situation and the uncertainty of the coming days, I have ordered the aircraft carrier Charles de Gaulle, its air assets, and its escort frigate to proceed to the Mediterranean Sea." As reported by the French publication Le Figaro, in addition to this, fighter jets have been activated in the Middle East to provide protection for French bases and air defense systems. Let me remind you, Tehran has repeatedly warned Europe of serious consequences if it joins the war against Iran. Iranian authorities have stated that any actions by European countries in this region will be considered acts of war, which will subsequently lead to attacks on European states. A similar situation in the Middle East is only gaining momentum and could lead to more large-scale consequences, extending far beyond this region. For the latest developments in the war that is escalating into World War III, watch our report.
Once again, I appeal to the Revolutionary Guard, the Iranian military, and the police. Lay down your arms and you will receive full amnesty, otherwise certain death awaits you.
The United States of America is preparing for a new phase of attacks on Iran.
They began constructing new facilities, new sites, underground bunkers, which within a few months would make their ballistic missile program and their atomic bomb program invulnerable. In the near future, the Iranian regime could acquire missiles capable of reaching our beautiful America, and then it would be very difficult to stop this Iranian regime and prevent it from creating nuclear weapons.
The next phase of the operation could begin within the next 24 hours. Washington warns that it will be even more brutal and large-scale.
The United States' stockpiles of munitions are at medium and above average levels. They have never been bigger or better. As I was told today, we have an almost unlimited supply of these weapons. Wars can be waged indefinitely and very successfully using only these stockpiles, which are better than the best weapons of other countries.
Across the ocean, they do not hide the fact that the goals of the operation go far beyond targeted strikes. This is about the systematic dismantling of Iran's military infrastructure.
Our first objective is to destroy Iran's missile program, and you can already see how is this happening. We have struck missile bases and are destroying missile production sites. Second, we are destroying Iran's warships. And third, we want to ensure that the world's main sponsor of terrorism does not acquire nuclear weapons. And finally, our goal is to ensure that Iran is unable to sponsor terrorist groups operating in other countries.
The United States emphasizes that the operation is aimed at systematically eliminating threats to national security and global shipping. At the same time, they are leaving open the possibility for regime change and the creation of a new future for the Iranian people. According to U.S. Secretary of State Mark Rubio, the strongest strikes are still ahead.
Honestly, again, I am not going to disclose the details of our tactical efforts, but the most powerful strikes from the U.S. armed forces are yet to come. The next phase will be even tougher for Iran than it is now.
Meanwhile, Iran has lost all 11 ships in the Gulf of Oman. This was reported on social media by the U.S. Central Command. At the same time, Israel has launched a ground operation in Lebanon. Sahal reports that troops are operating in several locations along the southern border of the country. They are carrying out targeted strikes on terrorist infrastructure. Hezbollah.
Yes, he is trying in some way to break the axis of evil. We understand this perfectly well. He doesn't want to be part of it. He wants to destroy it and be the only king of the hill. That's roughly how it looks. He simply needed some help to knock out the main component from this axis of evil. And
according to the expert, it's by no means China, not North Korea, not Venezuela, not Cuba, not Syria, and not even Iran. It's Russia.
Why? Because Russia is part of BRICS. Without Russia, there would be no BRICS. It also connects in some respects those same on certain issues with Iran as well and with North Korea too. To put it quite simply, without Russia providing essential energy resources and fuel, the overall situation for China would be significantly more precarious and dire at the moment, both in the economy and in energy, including that. That's why it was necessary to strike at Russia.
The Iranian war is taking on new and much more dangerous contours. The objectives are expanding and the rhetoric is becoming harsher. The list of tasks that Washington is setting for itself is unprecedented. But whether it will be possible to finally destroy the entrenched Islam, only time will tell. Meanwhile, the greedy toads and vipers in Russia can't divide their ill-gotten gains among themselves. The participants in the war in Ukraine and their ex-wives are revealing the details of these legal battles in our report.
Worldwide support for the family as the fundamental foundation of Russian society.
While Putin talks about the unity of nations and exemplary Russian families,
the values of love, mutual support, and trust are passed down in the family from generation to generation.
Just like culture, traditions, history, and moral principles.
These exemplary families go to kill Ukrainians for money.
There are people who work, normal people, yes. There are people who for some reason end up there, somewhere at the bottom. Some go for the money. And really, that's also a big problem. Are we fighting only for money or what?
And then they carefully divide up the millions of dollars they earned in blood.
How can you abandon a person who
died
for his homeland? Seryoja, if...
You're a hero there. Am I supposed to kiss your feet while you torment my child and me?
Yes, kiss my feet because I went to give my life for my homeland.
The number of legal disputes in Russia is rising amid a record number of divorces.
Now you find a man who is serving in the special military operation. He dies and you get 8 million for a working shift. Of course, a lot of people are doing that now.
Participants in Putin's special military operation are going to court en masse to demand their salaries back. Combat compensation for injuries, which they themselves had allowed their spouses to spend.
In the Urals, a former participant in the special military operation claimed that his wife forcibly sent him to rehab and stole 4.5 million in payments. While he was undergoing rehabilitation, the woman managed to dissolve their marriage. She insists that her husband drank it all away.
Most of the military men leave their bank cards with their wives back home. They issue powers of attorney to their wives and allow them to spend the money on themselves and the family's needs. The romance of the front lines ends quickly when the divorce process begins. It's always the same story. Either she finds a lover, or while the husband is at war, the wife spends the money by power of attorney on the family, children, mortgage, and daily life, while the husband finds a new love.
My husband is serving under contract in the 1st Separate Motorized Rifle Brigade, currently on combat duty. A week ago, he confessed that he was leaving me. He found another woman there, at his post. We have 2 children.
The contract soldier files for divorce and suddenly remembers that all the family expenses were not agreed upon. And in general, he didn't approve of anything, he was just at the front and couldn't control it.
They just sacrifice everything, and then after them, there's all this filth.
Journalists found at least 54 lawsuits in court databases filed by contract soldiers against their ex-wives and civil partners. The total amount of claims is about 100 million rubles.
The payments were cancelled even though they were supposed to continue until the regime was lifted, the counter-terrorist operation. As far as I know, no one has cancelled it. By the way, when the payments were being made, I was also working.
The lawsuits are filed either for unjust enrichment or for the division of jointly acquired property.
I flew to the Maldives.
We went with the child.
Often men assure the court that they transferred the money as a loan, or that they were under psychological influence.
I was under fire with my fellow soldiers while she, at my expense, was partying, traveling to the seas, and took my hard-earned money for herself. Now I'm left with a concussion in one eye, no health, and no money.
Such women are also called black widows or malvinki.
We listen to each other, we respect each other. That, I think, is probably the most important thing.
The most important thing in raising children, in my opinion, is love.
Yes, and Putin's state is so full of holes that while they talk about love, family, and fidelity on TV, lawsuits can be filed remotely in court. You can be at the front and get divorced through government services at the same time. The power of attorney can be signed by the unit commander or the head of the hospital.
I lost all my property, the car that was registered to my mother-in-law, then the land and the child.
On the grounds that at the moment I am officially unemployed.
Judges do not always side with the occupiers. If the money was spent on children and the family, it's hard to get it back. But compensation for injuries, money spent on cars and vacations, is most often required to be returned. I
was left alone, a single mother with many children. I have 10 kids.
The number of divorces in Russia was growing at record rates, and in 2025, demographic statistics were classified altogether.
Wow, this question can't even
be asked at all.
So does that mean I have to endure beatings, for example? Or should I put up with disrespectful treatment? Is that it?
Help! The truth is being hidden while posters all over Russia say heroes and unity, but in the courts there are disputes over who owns the bloody military millions. While Putin is sending hundreds of thousands of men to be slaughtered in Ukraine, inside the crumbling empire, a new trend is gaining momentum. A new trend. Russian women are increasingly marrying migrants from India. It seems that not only the labor crisis but also the demographic crisis has resolved itself. While Russian boys are dying for new palaces and yachts for the Kremlin elite, meanwhile their women are marrying Indians en masse. As they say, nature abhors a vacuum. These are the core, long-standing Russian traditional values. That's all for now. Please like this video and don't forget to subscribe to our channel Ukraine Today so you don't miss our next episodes. See you next time.